Now that your wife is dead, grieve, pack your bags, and never come back. My son-in-law declared at dinner, and my daughter just smiled and nodded. The house was never really yours anyway. I left, but not to pack my bags, rather to the bank, and set my plan in motion. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the channel and share where you're listening from in the comments. The fork shook in my hand as I gazed across the dining table. 5 days since Eleanor's funeral. 5 days of hoping for solace from the children we'd nurtured, cherished, and given everything for. Instead, Nathan leaned back in his chair as if he ruled the place. Sebastian. His voice sliced through the quiet, harsh as a winter gale. We need to discuss something. Isabella wouldn't look at me. My daughter, who once curled up in my lap during storms, now twisted her wedding ring like it scorched her skin. The roast beef I'd cooked turned cold between us. What's on your mind, son? The term felt strange. Nathan had never felt like a son to me, just the man who'd captured my little girl's heart 10 years ago. This house, he waved around our dining room, the space where Eleanor had hosted endless family meals, where Isabella had blown out birthday candles, where memories lingered in every nook. It's too large for one person. My chest constricted. I've lived here 20 years. Precisely. Nathan's smile lacked any warmth. Time for a shift. Isabella and I. We require room. Actual room. Not the tiny apartment we're trapped in. I turned to my daughter, seeking the kindness I'd instilled in her. She fixed her eyes on her plate, as if it revealed life's mysteries. Isabella? My voice faltered. She finally raised her head. Those blue eyes, Eleanor's eyes, gazed through me as if I were already vanished. Nathan's correct, Dad. This place is too much for you now. The words struck harder than any strike. Too much. As if 20 years of mortgage payments, of caring for every part of this home for my family, amounted to nothing. As if I were some load to handle. Where do you suggest I go? I placed down my fork before it revealed more of my astonishment. Nathan leaned in. Sensing frailty. Senior housing. Assisted living. Somewhere suitable for your age. Suitable, I echoed the word, savoring its sharpness. Dad, you're 65? Isabella's tone held forced tolerance, like teaching basic arithmetic to a kid. Mom's passed. You shouldn't wander this vast house alone. Wander, like I was some faulty component needing repair. Nathan rose, striding to the window overlooking Eleanor's flower garden. Look, Sebastian, we're being sensible here. You sell this place, move to something smaller. Everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. The phrase rang in my mind. Everyone except the man who'd constructed this life stone by stone. You could have a cozy little condo. Isabella's words tumbled out now, rehearsed phrases delivered clumsily. No upkeep, no concerns. Liberty, liberty. They were framing banishment as freedom. I examined my daughter's face, hunting for hints of the girl who'd once protected. Hurt birds, who'd weep if she stepped on blooms. That girl had disappeared, replaced by this unfamiliar person in her likeness. And if I decline, silence pulled tight like a strained cable? Nathan sat again, squaring his shoulders like readying for conflict. Dad? Isabella's tone grew firmer. Don't complicate this further. Complicate? As if my bond to the home I'd shared with my wife for over 40 years was just obstinacy. Nathan cleared his throat, the noise piercing in the hush. His next words fell like hammer strikes on fragile glass. Now that your wife is dead, grieve, pack your suitcases, and never return. The savagery stole my breath. Eleanor reduced to your wife, as if 40 years of marriage was some fleeting setup, and dead, pack, never return. Each word designed to injure. I waited for Isabella to gasp, to object, to display some shred of the daughter I'd raised. Instead, she nodded. Nathan's right, Dad. It's time. Something within me solidified then. Not shattered, solidified, like water freezing into something tougher, chillier, more determined. I stood gradually, my legs more stable than in days. I understand. 2 words. That's all I uttered. 2 words that contained 40 years of marriage, 20 years in this house, 65 years of honorable living, and 5 days of sorrow they'd turned against me. I walked to the hallway closet and donned my jacket. Behind me, Nathan's voice dripped smugness like aftershave. Wise decision. Sebastian, we'll assist you in viewing places tomorrow. I didn't reply. Couldn't reply. The door shut behind me with a gentle click that echoed in my heart. The night air nipped at my face as I stood on my own porch, gazing back at windows glowing warm and inviting. My house, my life, my family, former family. I strode to my car, each step careful and intentional. As I drove off, I avoided the rearview mirror. I was finished glancing back. Something fresh was forming in the spot where my heart once resided. Back in my study, I cleared the dinner dishes with automatic accuracy. Isabella and Nathan had departed 30 minutes earlier, their car doors banging like shots in the calm evening. Now silence weighed against the walls of my house. Our house, Eleanor's and mine. I sank into the leather armchair that had been my sanctuary for 12 years. The graduation photo on my desk captured the lamplight. Isabella at 21, beaming in cap and gown, her arms around Eleanor and me. $95,000. That's what her education cost me. Every semester, every dorm fee, every textbook and meal plan, I sent the money willingly, seeing my savings dwindle as my daughter's prospects grew. June 2012. The university hall was crowded, but I only noticed her when they announced her name. Isabella Marie York. Eleanor gripped my hand so firmly her wedding band dug into my palm. Our daughter crossed that stage like she commanded the world. Later, in the parking lot, Isabella flung her arms around my neck, tears flowing down her face. I can't believe you made this possible for me, Dad. Her voice cracked with feeling. $95,000. I looked up the receipts you preserved. You gave me all. You're worth every cent, dear. I vow I'll care for you and Mom when you're older. I swear on my life. Dad, family cares for family. Family cares for family. The words now resounded like a harsh jest. I reached for the photo, tracing Isabella's youthful face through the glass. 6 years later, she'd needed another rescue. $70,000 this time for a house down payment. She and Nathan couldn't secure the mortgage by themselves. Too much debt. Weak credit. They'd sat in my living room, Isabella's eyes swollen from tears. We'll repay you, Dad. Every dollar with interest. Nathan had agreed, though his thanks seemed shallow even then. But Isabella's urgency was genuine. She'd craved that house like she'd once desired her degree, with utter consuming desire. I'd issued the check the following morning. 3 years ago. Their wedding. $25,000 for the country club event. The flowers. The photographer. Eleanor was already displaying signs of the disease that would claim her. But she'd demanded the cost. She's our only daughter. Sebastian. Let's give her a day she'll always remember. During the father-daughter dance, Isabella had murmured in my ear, Thank you for everything. Dad, for making this flawless. I'm so fortunate to have you. Flawless. The word now tasted sour. Standing. I moved to the filing cabinet where I stored financial records. Eleanor had always joked about my precise bookkeeping. But figures don't deceive. They narrate tales more truthful than vows. College, $95,000. House down payment, $70,000. Wedding, $25,000. Smaller loans over the years for vehicles. Crises. Nathan's failed building venture startup. 40,000? 230,000. Almost 3/4 of my life savings invested in my daughter's joy. Each check drafted with affection. Each transfer executed with pride. A far-off memory emerged. Isabella at 8, unsteady on her first bike in our front yard. I'd steadied the seat, jogging beside as she gained balance. We'll always be a family. Right. Daddy. Always. Sweetheart. Family cares for family. Even then. She'd grasped the principle we followed, or I'd believed she had. My phone vibrated on the desk. A text from Isabella. Thanks for grasping, Dad. This is truly for the best. We'll aid you in finding a nice spot tomorrow. Grasping. As if I'd consented to anything. As if being commanded from my own home was logical conduct from the daughter I'd given all for. I stared at the phone until the screen dimmed, then set it aside. Something cold settled in my chest, supplanting the pain with something firmer, more concentrated. They thought they knew Sebastian York, the bountiful father, the mourning widower, the simple target. They'd misjudged. 35 years in banking had schooled me in matters of money and influence they couldn't fathom. Opening my laptop, I started typing. Time to discover precisely what my investments had bought. Dawn found me gazing at the ceiling, Eleanor's pillow still dented beside me. Rest had been unattainable by 7 a.m. I'd showered, dressed in my finest gray suit, the one I'd worn to client sessions for 20 years, and reached a resolution. Valley State Bank stood in downtown Phoenix like a stronghold of glass and metal. I'd labored in this structure until my retirement 4 years ago. Knew every hallway, every face. Striding through the lobby felt like revisiting the past. Sebastian York. The receptionist's smile was sincere. Haven't seen you in weeks. Here to meet someone. Michael Reynolds. If he's free, tell him it's regarding a financial review. 25 minutes later, I sat opposite Michael in his corner office. Same walnut desk. Same family pictures. Same orderly setup, I recalled. Michael had been my coworker for 18 years. A cautious man with a sharp eye for particulars. You look fine. Sebastian. He poured coffee from a thermos, though I was saddened to learn about Eleanor. She was a wonderful lady. Thank you. I took the cup, sensing the familiar burden of business in my grasp. I need to comprehend my financial risk on some loans I backed. Michael's demeanor turned to expert vigilance. Certainly. Which accounts worry you? My daughter's mortgage and anything tied to my son-in-law's business efforts. Fingers flying over his keyboard, Michael accessed files that lifted his eyebrows slightly. Well, since you co-signed on Isabella's initial mortgage and the home equity line, I can surely address your responsibility. Home equity line, I hadn't been aware of that one. The mortgage payments have been erratic for 9 months, Michael went on. Scanning data. Presently 70 days late. That endangers your credit score. 70 days. My chest squeezed. What about Nathan's business accounts? Michael's hesitation revealed all before he spoke. The equipment loan you secured for Horizon Builders defaulted 5 months ago. 80,000 in principal plus built-up interest and charges. 80,000. I placed down my coffee cup cautiously. Sebastian, I must inquire. Are you conscious of their present financial state? Evidently not as conscious as I ought to be. The home equity line was exhausted 7 months ago. 50,000 withdrawn against the property. Combined with the mortgage delays and Nathan's business default, Michael leaned forward. Your risk exposure is considerable. Over 130,000 if they keep defaulting. The figures struck like actual hits. Not only had they squandered the money I'd provided, they'd borrowed against it and neglected to repay that too. There's additional. Michael's tone lowered. Nathan filed for business bankruptcy 3 weeks ago. It shields him from creditors. But your securities stay in effect. 3 weeks ago, around the period they'd begun scheming their assault, Michael. Theoretically, if these accounts entered full default, what would occur to the property foreclosure actions within 100 days? The house would be auctioned to cover the debts. Given market values now and the sum owed, he figured swiftly, there might be 12 to 18,000 equity left after all claims are met. 12,000 from a house I'd put 70,000 down on. Rising. I shook Michael's hand with the same resolve I'd used in countless business gatherings. I value your frankness. This supplies the details I require to form some choices. Sebastian? Michael's voice halted me at the door. If you need any records of these accounts for legal aims, I can compile a full liability summary. That would be quite useful. Thank you. Heading to my car, my strides felt altered, resolute. The morning sun shone bright and warm, vowing a lovely Arizona day. Seated behind the wheel, I drew out my phone and browsed my contacts until I located what I sought. 4 years retired, but I still recalled which lawyers focused on financial retrieval and estate strategy. Isabella and Nathan believed they'd trapped a sorrowful old man. Instead, they'd roused something far more perilous. A retired banking expert who now grasped precisely how unstable their stance truly was. The afternoon light angled across my desk as I laid out the papers Michael had assembled. 4 hours since departing the bank, and my systematic banker's intellect was at last assuming command. I'd organized the documents by date, loan contracts, payment logs, default alerts, forming a chronicle of financial ruin. My old calculator rested beside a notepad brimming with numbers. 35 years of evaluating credit dangers had instructed me to interpret beyond the lines of financial reports. The narrative these papers conveyed was graver than I'd pictured. Nathan's building business had crumbled 7 months ago. Not slowly. Disastrously. A $55,000 equipment loan grew to $80,000 with fines and compound interest. He'd used personal credit cards to sustain the business, turning family funds into betting stakes. 5 different credit cards. $25,000 in revolving debt across them. The minimum payments alone devoured 45% of their monthly earnings. Assuming Nathan secured steady employment, but it was the mortgage plight that exposed their real despair. Isabella's house, the one I'd supplied a $70,000 down payment for, was 4 months behind on payments. Foreclosure could commence in 70 days. There was further, a home equity line of credit I'd never known about, maxed at $50,000. They'd borrowed against the house to pay Nathan's business debts, then borrowed more to cover the borrowing. I leaned back in my chair, observing dust particles swirl in the sunlight. The numbers depicted people sinking in debt, making ever more frantic choices. Nathan's bankruptcy filing 3 weeks ago guarded him from business lenders, but my guarantees persisted. They needed my house, not desired. Needed. Their cramped apartment wasn't choice. It was all they could manage while balancing minimum payments on escalating debts. My phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Dad, we discovered a charming assisted living spot in Chandler. Far more fitting than that big empty house. Can we arrange a tour tomorrow? Far more fitting? The sterile phrasing couldn't conceal the haste. They weren't considering my ease or contentment. They were measuring square footage against mortgage costs, my house against their endurance. Standing, I approached the filing cabinet where Eleanor and I had stored vital papers, behind the insurance policies. I found what I hunted. Copies of every loan pact I'd co-signed through the years. My liability risk was astounding. If Nathan's business debts went to ruling, creditors could chase me for the entire sum. If Isabella's mortgage foreclosed, the shortfall would fall on me. Conservative guess. $150,000 in possible demands. But liability functioned both directions. As co-signer, I possessed legal entitlements, rights to request financial data, rights to safeguard my interests, rights they'd never anticipated I'd use. I retrieved my laptop and began typing. Time to explore exactly what those rights granted me. The Arizona revised statutes were very explicit about guarantor safeguards. Section 473605 was especially intriguing. Cosigners could demand prompt payment or termination of guaranteed duties under specific conditions. Conditions like hiding extra debts, like employing guaranteed credit for unapproved uses, like trying to deceive the guarantor. My phone rang. Isabella, once more. Hi, Dad. Did you receive my text about the tour I did? My voice sounded changed to my own ears. Calmer, more managed. Wonderful. They have openings next week. You could be moved in by month's close. Month's close. 25 days from now. Isabella, I must ask you something. Are you and Nathan facing financial hardships? Silence extended between us like a suspended breath. Why would you pose that, Dad? Because I concern myself with your well-being as your father and as someone who's assisted your financial choices over the years. We're okay. Just seeking more space for our future. Future constructed on my house. My money. My shattered trust. I see. Well, we'll converse more soon about the tour tomorrow. I'll inform you, after ending the call. I sat staring at the wall where Eleanor's college diploma hung beside mine. She'd always been the trusting one, the one who saw the finest in folks. But she'd also been the one who urged I maintain thorough records of every monetary deal. Trust, but confirm, she used to say, particularly with family funds. Now I comprehended why. Tuesday morning delivered the call I'd foreseen, 8:50. Exactly the hour desperate individuals contact kin, early enough to appear pressing, late enough to evade charges of alarm. My coffee was still steaming when the phone rang. Isabella's name on the screen brought a smile I hadn't experienced in weeks. Good morning? Isabella. Dad. Her voice bore an unknown quiver. I hope I'm not ringing too soon. Not at all. I've been awake since 5. I settled back in my chair, watching vapor rise from my mug. What can I do for you? A pause, then meticulously selected words. I need to talk about something vital with you regarding our discussion Sunday. Which aspect? Well, about the house matter and some financial worries Nathan and I are encountering. Financial worries. Such refined terms for disastrous debt. I'm attentive. Dad, we're enduring a tough phase. Nathan's building work has been sporadic and with some unforeseen costs. Her voice wavered. We need aid, just briefly. 20,000 would set us straight. 20,000. Not sufficient to fully update their mortgage, but likely enough to fend off foreclosure for another month. No. Isabella. Silence pulled like a retained breath. I'm sorry. What I said no, I won't be providing you money. Dad, I don't think you comprehend. This isn't for leisure or extravagance. We could forfeit our house. Could forfeit. They were 4 months delayed. They would forfeit it within 70 days unless someone stepped in. Someone like their generous father who'd always saved them before. I comprehend entirely. But you've always supported us. When I required college funds. When we purchased the house. The wedding. Always supported. 230,000 worth of support to be exact. That was then. Dad, what's amiss with you? Panic seeped into her voice. This isn't like you. We're family. Family? The word she'd overlooked when commanding me to pack and vanish. Are we? Of course we are. Dad, please, I know Sunday was strained, but we can resolve this. We just need 20,000 to update payments. And the answer is no. Isabella, I don't grasp. Her voice fractured a bit. You have the money. You know you do. And we'll return it. Actually, they never had. Not once. Every loan turned into a gift through their skilled mix of thanks and choosy recall. No means no. Dad, please. Genuine desperation now. The mask crumbling. The mortgage firm called yesterday. We have 3 weeks before they initiate foreclosure actions. I'm pleading with you. 3 weeks. My schedule was more precise. They had less than that before the acceleration provision activated and the whole balance became due at once. Have you thought about downsizing? Maybe something more suitable to your current earnings? Dad, you can't be earnest. That house is our home, our future. You aided us in buying it. Aided them in buying it. $70,000 down. My endorsement on their guarantee. My credit supporting their aspirations. Sometimes situations alter. What situations, Dad? Speak to me. What's truly happening? What was happening, their devoted father had uncovered exactly how much their fondness was valued. Market price evidently was one spacious house and prompt disappearance from their lives. I've made my choice. This is about Sunday. Isn't it? About what Nathan said. Her voice rose higher. Dad, he didn't intend it. We were pressured. Frightened about money. And goodbye. Isabella, Dad. Wait. I hung up. The phone promptly started ringing again. I silenced the ringer and went back to my newspaper. The finance part had a fascinating piece about increasing foreclosure rates in Arizona. Evidently, many families were learning that living above their means carried repercussions. Outside, a songbird trilled in Eleanor's flower garden. The flowers were flourishing splendidly this year. Eleanor would have been delighted. She'd always said the garden prospered when properly nurtured and mercilessly trimmed. Sometimes the most caring act was to sever the unhealthy stems. My phone buzzed with a text. Dad, please call back. We need to discuss this. I erased the message and poured another cup of coffee. It was going to be a splendid day. 3 days after my denial, the alerts started coming. Credit checks on accounts where I held co-signer duty, as guarantor. The system automatically notified me when they sought emergency loans. 4 different banks, all rejected within hours. Wednesday afternoon discovered me parked opposite Nathan's building site, watching their downfall through my windshield. He stood near a partially constructed base, phone to his ear, waving wildly, even from afar. His distress was clear. His boss neared twice during my 25-minute watch. Both talks ended with Nathan turning away, shoulders stiff with irritation. A man under strain commits errors, and building work doesn't pardon negligence. Thursday morning led me to Morning Brew Cafe, a favored spot among banking experts. I'd built connections here for 30 years, connections that now offered precious insights. Sebastian York, as I breathe. Elizabeth Carter from First National settled into the booth across from me. Haven't seen you since Eleanor's service. How are you managing day by day? Elizabeth? The house feels vacant, but staying active helps. Of course. She mixed her latte reflectively. Speaking of active, we had an intriguing application yesterday. Your son-in-law, actually, Nathan Hayes. I maintained a neutral look. Oh, high-risk situation. Debt-to-income ratio nearing 65%, recent business bankruptcy, numerous inquiries around town. Elizabeth shook her head. We couldn't approach it with a 12-foot pole. Neither could others, from what I gather. 65% debt to income. That was worse than my estimates suggested. Family finances can be intricate, I suggested. This surpassed intricate. The application displayed 4 months of missed mortgage payments, maxed credit cards. The lot. She leaned in confidentially. Between us, Sebastian, they're facing foreclosure within 3 weeks. I felt awful denying them, but we have investors to think of. 3 weeks. My timeline had been hopeful. That's regrettable. The unfortunate part. If they'd had a capable co-signer, someone with solid assets and spotless credit, we might have arranged something, but they arrived alone. Desperate as paupers. Capable co-signer. The irony wasn't missed on me. After Elizabeth departed, I sat completing my coffee and pondering the data. Nathan and Isabella were realizing that financial standing, once harmed, couldn't be swiftly mended. Trust, like credit ratings, took years to establish and moments to ruin. Driving home, I passed their modest apartment building. Isabella's car was in the lot. Hood up, steam billowing from the engine. Another cost they couldn't bear. She stood beside it, phone in hand, likely contacting repair places she couldn't compensate. Back in my study, I accessed the credit tracking service I'd kept on accounts I guaranteed. The activity over the last 50 hours illustrated growing desperation. 8 loan applications, 8 rejections. Each check reduced their credit score, making the next even less probable to succeed. My phone buzzed. Another text from Isabella. "Dad, can we please converse? I know you're upset about Sunday, but we're family. Families assist each other through hard times." Families assist each other. Where had that feeling been when they'd commanded me to pack and depart? I deleted the message without answering. The evening broadcast included a segment on rising foreclosure rates in Arizona. Young families overextended, living beyond their resources. Finding that credit wasn't endless. The journalist spoke with a housing advisor who discussed early action, family aid networks, and the value of open talk about money troubles. Open talk. If only Nathan and Isabella had attempted that method instead of scheming and demands. My phone rang. Isabella again. I let it ring 8 times before voicemail engaged. A minute later, the alert chimed. "Dad, it's me. Look, I know we started wrong Sunday. Perhaps Nathan was too blunt about the house matter. But we're truly struggling here. I've never requested anything without repaying it. This is different. This is our home, our future. Please return my call. Never requested anything without repaying." Apparently, she'd forgotten the $80,000 in unpaid loans I'd dismissed as gifts over the years. Our future erected on my sacrifice, my liberality, my readiness to finance their dreams. Now that the bank was shut, they were uncovering what their future really resembled. I poured a scotch and settled into Eleanor's preferred armchair. Outside, the desert dusk was coloring the sky in hues of orange and purple, lovely and ruthless like the terrain itself. Friday evening delivered the call I'd anticipated. 7:45. Exactly when desperate men forsake dignity and grasp their final lifeline. I let it ring 4 times before responding. Sebastian York. Sebastian. Nathan's voice bore the tension of a week's rejections. "We need to talk. I'm listening. Look, I know we began poorly Sunday. Maybe I was too straightforward about the house situation. But we're family. And families support each other through tough periods. Family. How rapidly that word surfaced when funds were required. Is that what we are? Nathan. Of course. Sebastian, hear me out. We're in grave trouble here. The banks, none will cooperate with us. Something about our debt-to-income ratio. Credit checks. I don't get all the financial jargon. I got it perfectly. 65% debt-to-income was a fatal blow in today's lending scene. Financial jargon can be perplexing. Sebastian, we need $20,000, just temporarily. We'll sign documents, pay interest, whatever you desire. But if we don't get aid soon, we lose all, their house, their credit, their easy assumptions about my boundless generosity. As I remember, Nathan, you instructed me to pack my suitcases and never return. Silence extended across the line like a tight wire. That was a miscommunication. I was pressured about the house being too vast for you, concerned about your safety, rambling alone in all that area. Rambling. Even his regrets held condescension. Intriguing view. Sebastian, please. Eleanor would have wished you to aid us. She adored Isabella, adored our family. She wouldn't want to witness us lose our home. Eleanor. They were employing my deceased wife's memory as influence. The boldness was nearly commendable. Eleanor's gone. Nathan, I decide now. What's occurred to you? His voice climbed higher. Desperation leaking through tried control. This isn't the Sebastian I know. The Sebastian who assisted with college, the wedding, the house down payment. The Sebastian who issued checks without query, who took gratitude as compensation, who never required accountability. That Sebastian had perished Sunday evening. Maybe you never knew me as well as you assumed. This is about Sunday, isn't it? About what I said? Panic entered his tone. Sebastian, I apologize. I was mistaken. I should never have proposed you leave your own house. Should never have proposed. Not shouldn't have meant it, but shouldn't have voiced it. Your apology is recorded. Then you'll aid us. No. Why not the query burst across the line? You have the money. You know you do. 350,000 in savings, perhaps more. What's 20,000 to you, 350,000? Near my real balance. Someone had been probing my finances. How do you know my account sum? Nathan, Isabella noted. Look, that doesn't count. What counts is you can rescue us, and you're opting not to. As if generosity was a duty rather than a present. You're correct. I am opting. You son of. He stopped himself, breathing heavily. Sebastian, I'm attempting to be polite here, but you're pressing me. We're discussing your daughter's future, your grandchildren's legacy, grandchildren that didn't exist from a daughter who'd commanded me exiled. Are you menacing me? Nathan, I'm clarifying reality. If we lose this house, if our credit is ruined, if we're pushed into bankruptcy, that impacts everyone, including you. Everyone except the man they attempted to banish. I think our talk is done. Wait. Sebastian. Just tell me why. Why won't you aid us? What did we do to merit this? What did they do? They'd viewed my grief as frailty, my love as susceptibility, my generosity as assured revenue. They'd armed Eleanor's funeral as leverage for monetary gain. Perhaps you should question why your loan requests keep getting declined. Another silence. Lengthier this time. When Nathan spoke again, his voice held a different trait. Doubt. What do you imply by that? Precisely what I stated. Sebastian, what aren't you revealing everything? My professional circle, my cosigner entitlements, my tactical patience, my thorough grasp of their financial despair. Good evening. Nathan. Sebastian. Don't you dare disconnect on. I ended the call and muted the ringer. Outside my study window, the desert dusk painted the sky in shades of scarlet and amber, beautiful and unforgiving, like justice itself. My phone buzzed with a text message. Nathan, this isn't finished. Old man, not by far. I smiled and deleted the message. He was correct about one thing. This was merely the start. Saturday morning brought clarity on my next action. Nathan's threats had overstepped a boundary that demanded proper reply. If he wanted to play rough, I'd demonstrate what expert-level tactics appeared like. My first halt was the public library's business research hub. 20 years in banking had taught me that every firm leaves a document trail. And Horizon Builders LLC would be no outlier. The Arizona Corporation Commission records disclosed compelling details. Horizon Builders had submitted late payment alerts with 4 subcontractors in the past 5 months. Cash flow issues. Permit holdups on 3 city projects. a workers' compensation claim still under review. I printed the pertinent pages and proceeded to the building industry databases. The image clarified. Soaring material prices, labor deficits, and postponed city payments were compressing small contractors throughout Arizona. Horizon Builders was navigating troubled seas. At Morning Brew Cafe, I met Robert Fletcher, a former client who'd retired from the city planning office. Our chat began with courtesies about Eleanor's memorial and shifted to sector talk. "The building business is fierce right now," Robert remarked, stirring his coffee. "Half these small operations are one project flop from insolvency. I suppose permit adherence is vital in that setting. More than ever, with all the safety rules, insurance mandates, worker safeguard laws, one breach can halt a project for weeks. Intriguing," I noted mentally to probe Horizon Builders' adherence record deeper, any specific firms causing the department troubles. Robert lowered his voice. "Well, between us, there's been some worries about Horizon Builders, nothing enforceable yet, but their safety measures seem lax, and their insurance papers have been delayed several times." Safety measures. Insurance papers. In the building sector. These weren't just administrative needs. They were the gap between lucrative projects and regulatory horrors. Back home, I spent Sunday morning cross-checking public files with industry summaries. Horizon Builders' financial strain was more acute than I'd first gauged. They owed $70,000 to a concrete provider, $45,000 to an electrical subcontractor, and had missed 4 insurance premium payments. But the most captivating find came from the Better Business Bureau records. 3 complaints lodged in the past month, all concerning unfinished work and payment conflicts. Not enough to demolish a firm, but adequate to prompt doubts about dependability. I pulled out my old business contact roster. Retirement hadn't cut all professional ties. William Hayes at Southwest Insurance Group managed workers' compensation for most local contractors. Laura Bennett at Municipal Licensing had handled permit requests for decades. Both owed me favors from our banking era. By Sunday afternoon, I'd made subtle inquiries with 4 different agencies, not charges, merely concerned queries about sector adherence and risk oversight. Professional diligence, the sort any seasoned business analyst might follow. "William, I'm doing some casual consulting, and Horizon Builders emerged as a possible collaborator. I'd explained to the insurance leader their coverage appears sufficient, but I wanted to confirm their claims history and payment status. Sebastian, between us, they're on shaky ground. 3 late payments, and we're obligated to alert their bonding firm. 1 more missed premium and their coverage expires. Coverage expire. In the building business. That meant instant project closure and potential legal liability for any job injuries." Laura Bennett at Municipal Licensing had been equally enlightening. Horizon Builders. They've had permit problems lately. Nothing significant, but enough to indicate management issues. Their foreman turned in incomplete safety plans 3 times last month. Incomplete safety plans. Another warning that oversight bodies would monitor closely. I spent Sunday evening combining my research. Horizon Builders was a firm under duress, balancing on a tightrope of regulatory adherence while battling cash flow troubles. They needed every project to proceed smoothly, every permit to handle without delay, every check to pass flawlessly. Unfortunately for Nathan, firms in unstable spots often found that minor issues became major catastrophes swiftly, especially when those issues got the right focus from regulatory officials. I drafted a straightforward email to Robert Fletcher. "Robert, enjoyed our coffee chat yesterday. Thought you might find these industry adherence reports engaging, particularly the part on safety protocol breaches. Purely informational." Naturally. Attached were Horizon Builders' public records displaying their recent permit delays and safety paperwork problems. Nothing private, nothing invented. Simply openly available data arranged in a professionally persuasive format. The email would reach Robert Monday morning. He'd examine the materials, likely share them with his former associates in planning and safety inspection. Standard data sharing among experts concerned about public welfare. Within a week, Horizon builders would face the type of regulatory examination that could close projects and deplete cash reserves. Nathan had threatened me. Now he'd learn what true power resembled. Monday brought the update I'd awaited. Nathan's truck was in their driveway at 3:30 p.m. 3 hours earlier than his typical return from Horizon Builders. Through my rearview mirror, parked at the corner coffee stand, I observed him sit still behind the wheel for almost 12 minutes when he finally exited. His shoulders bore the beaten droop of a man whose world had just fallen. The regulatory focus I'd arranged had acted quicker than expected. Horizon Builders' permit issues had grown into a total project stop, forcing prompt layoffs. Nathan vanished inside their modest house. Within moments, loud voices echoed through the thin walls and open windows. Even from the road, his agitation was unmistakable. Sharp motions visible through the front window, pacing that made the entire building seem to shake with stress. Tuesday morning came with Isabella's cry. I'd placed myself at the neighborhood park, seemingly reading the morning paper while watching their house from a discreet range. The sound cut the desert air like shattering crystal. Pure, anguished disbelief. Nathan had at last confessed. $80,000 in concealed business debt. The bankruptcy filing. The series of lies that had upheld their way of life for months. Through their kitchen window, I could see Isabella's outline gesturing fiercely, her actions sharp and frantic. Nathan stood rigid, hands extended in what seemed defensive justification. Their home crisis unfolded like a mute movie, all anger and disloyalty without heard words. Isabella stormed out, phone to her ear. Her first call endured 4 minutes, probably her sister in Texas. The second was briefer, more urgent. By the 5th call, she was pacing the driveway, voice carrying across the morning calm. "Mom, I know it's early, but we need help. Serious help. Nathan lost his job. And no, there's more. Much more." She vanished back inside, only to reappear 12 minutes later with another frantic phone call. This routine persisted through the morning, desperate outreach to anyone who might provide financial rescue. By midday, Nathan had made 3 trips to the liquor store and one to what looked like a pawn shop based on the small containers he carried from the house. Selling personal goods? The typical desperation step of people drowning in debt. I moved to the public library parking area for the afternoon watch, keeping visual link while seeming to run ordinary tasks. Their crisis was speeding beyond even my positive forecasts. Isabella's friend, Rebecca, arrived around 2:30 p.m., remaining for 90 minutes. Through the open front door, I could hear pieces of emotional talk. Tears, pleas for guidance. The empty resonance of someone finding their safety net had vanished. When Rebecca left, her look carried the uneasy blend of compassion and relief that signifies someone thankful not to be asked for funds they lack. Evening brought the actual collapse. Nathan and Isabella's dispute had shifted to their front porch, voices elevated beyond any pretense of seclusion. Standing in my own yard, apparently watering Eleanor's flowers, I could hear every acrid word. "You ruined us financially." Isabella's voice broke with weariness and rage. $80,000, Nathan. How do you conceal $80,000? I was attempting to preserve the business. All I did was for our future. Our future? What future? We lose the house in 7 days. 7 days. Nathan, your father could assist us if he chose. One phone call, one transfer, and this entire horror vanishes. My father Isabella's laugh contained no amusement. You commanded him to pack his bags and never return. You think he's overlooked that Nathan's reply was lost in the slam of their front door? Isabella stayed on her porch, weeping into her hands with the raw hopelessness of someone whose world had exploded in one day. I wound the garden hose and went inside, content with the day's data collection. My approach was surpassing all hopes. Their marriage, already burdened by money pressure, was breaking under the load of betrayal and despair. Phase 2 of my plan was finished. They'd lost their earnings, drained their credit, and now faced the ruin of their most basic bond: trust between spouse and spouse. Tomorrow would deliver Phase 3. But tonight I'd pour a scotch and value the graceful accuracy of seeing people harvest precisely what they'd planted. The desert evening colored the sky crimson and gold. Justice, it appeared, wore the most stunning hues. Wednesday evening brought the guests I'd expected. Through my front window, I watched them near Isabella holding Nathan's arm for support, both shuffling with the beaten gait of people who'd exhausted choices. The doorbell sounded once, a hesitant, almost regretful tone. I took my time responding, straightening my tie, checking my reflection in the hallway mirror. When handling desperate folks, timing and appearance were all. Dad. Isabella's eyes were rimmed red from crying. Thank you for meeting us. Isabella. Nathan. I stepped aside, permitting entry, but offering no welcoming moves. Please enter. They trailed me to the living room where I claimed my usual chair. Eleanor's chair stayed vacant beside me, a mute reminder of what they'd cost me. Nathan and Isabella sat on the couch's edge like kids summoned to the headmaster's office. I assume you have something to address? Isabella's poise shattered instantly. Dad, we're in deep trouble. I know we committed errors, said things we shouldn't have. But errors? I repeated the word with medical exactness. Interesting word choice. Sebastian, I need to express regret. Nathan's voice carried the strain of ingested pride. What I said at dinner about packing your bags, that was utterly improper. I was stressed about our financial plight and vented on you. Our financial plight? Even in regret. He was revising history. You were stressed, I recognized. About what exactly? Nathan's jaw clenched. The query compelled him to expose weakness he'd rather conceal. Business difficulties. Debt matters I should have shared with Isabella sooner. How much debt? Nathan. The quiet grew awkward. Isabella gazed at her husband with new hurt. Even now he was unwilling to admit the full extent of his deceit. 80,000, Nathan finally conceded. That's significant. I kept my voice expertly impartial. And your job status? I lost my position Monday. Building industry issues? Building industry issues. Not regulatory focus sparked by concerned residents sharing public safety data. Nathan still didn't comprehend the real extent of his dilemma. Dad, please. Isabella's voice fractured. We lose the house in 6 days. I've contacted everyone. My sister, college pals. Anyone who might assist. Nobody has that kind of funds ready on short notice. Nobody except the father she'd helped evict from his own home. And you considered me. Your family. Tears flowed down her face. You're all I have left since Mom died. She would have desired us to remain united, resolve our issues. Eleanor. They were calling upon my dead wife's memory to extract sympathy from me. Your mother prized honesty above everything. She maintained precise records, demanded clarity in all money affairs. Isabella overlooked the hint. But Nathan's eyes narrowed a bit. He was starting to detect something under my composed replies. Dad, I know I haven't been the ideal daughter, but I'm still your little girl. Please don't forsake me when I need you most. Your little girl, the same child who'd stood quietly while her husband commanded me to abandon my own home. What precisely are you requesting me to do? Provide us funds? Nathan said rapidly. 50,000 would cover the mortgage arrears and give us space to secure new jobs. 50,000. A portion of what they truly owed, but enough to delay their reckoning day. That's a sizable amount. We'll repay you, Isabella vowed, with interest. Whatever conditions you set, we'll sign legal papers. Use the house as security. Use the house as security. The house I'd already supplied the down payment for. On the mortgage I'd already secured. I see. I leaned back in my chair, studying their frantic faces. And if I refuse? The query lingered in the air like mist. Isabella's shoulders trembled with held sobs. Nathan stared at the floor, pride and desperation clashing in his look. Then we lose all, Isabella murmured. Our home, our marriage, our future built on deceptions, maintained by trickery, crumbling under the weight of outcomes they'd never foreseen. I stood slowly, walking to the window overlooking Eleanor's garden. The flowers were blooming magnificently this year. She'd always said that proper trimming was crucial for robust growth. This is quite a bind you've found yourselves in. Behind me. I could hear Isabella's soft weeping, Nathan's heavy breathing. They were awaiting my verdict, depending entirely on my compassion. For the first time in weeks, I felt the profound fulfillment of flawless justice. Before I ponder your plea, I said, turning from the window, I think you should grasp exactly how you reached this point. Isabella wiped her eyes, bewilderment flashing across her tear-marked face. What do you mean? I mean that very little of what's befallen you has been accidental. I walked to my desk, opening the center drawer where I'd kept detailed notes of every tactical choice. Nathan's expression shifted from defeat to caution as I extracted a thick folder of documents. Let me show you something captivating. I spread the timeline across the coffee table between us. Monday, March 20th, I visited my former associate, Michael Reynolds, at Valley State Bank. Nathan's face paled. You did what as co-signer on your loans? I had full legal right to examine your financial condition. Michael was quite comprehensive in his evaluation. I pulled out the printed credit summaries. 80,000 in business debt. 4 months behind on mortgage payments. Credit cards maxed at 65% of limits. Isabella stared at the papers. Dad, I don't understand. I performed a professional risk assessment of your situation. 20 years in banking taught me to identify when clients were past recovery. I turned to another page. Your debt-to-income ratio was nearing 70%, statistically unsustainable. You were assessing us? Nathan's voice carried rising horror. When Isabella called, asking for 20,000, I'd anticipated it for days. The timing was foreseeable based on your payment timetables and cash flow forecasts. You planned to deny... Nathan, you ordered me to pack my suitcases and never come back. Did you think there would be no repercussions for that degree of harshness? I moved to the next batch of documents. The banking circle in Phoenix is remarkably linked. Elizabeth Carter at First National, William Hayes at Community Trust, Laura Bennett at Southwest Credit Union, all former clients of mine. Nathan was on his feet now, his face red with dawning fury. You blocked us. I shared valid concerns about risk elements and payment trustworthiness. All I discussed was openly available data. You wrecked our credit applications. I offered expert perspective to colleagues making wise business choices. Isabella was gazing at me as if beholding a stranger. Dad, what are you stating? I'm stating that Horizon Builders was already exposed before I shared workplace safety worries with Robert Fletcher at City Planning. Their permit compliance was dubious. Their insurance payments were overdue. Their safety protocols needed scrutiny. "You got me dismissed." Nathan's words emerged as a whisper. I ensured that oversight authorities had complete data about potential public safety hazards. Horizon Builders' following troubles were wholly their own making. I extracted the final paper, my handwritten tactical timeline. Every phone call, every denial, every coincidence was computed for utmost psychological effect at ideal timing. "You orchestrated all of this." Isabella's voice broke. "From the instant Nathan told me to pack my bags." "Yes. I devoted 35 years to analyzing financial weaknesses and strategic stress points. Applying that skill to your plight was merely professional method." Nathan lunged ahead, seizing the papers. "You scheming old—" "Careful, Nathan." My voice held iron. "You're still in my house, seeking my aid." He froze, documents quivering in his hands as he read my methodical planning records. The dates, the tactical decisions, the professional contacts used, the systematic removal of their options. "You demolished our marriage." Isabella's charge hung in the air. "Your marriage was side damage. The main goal was fitting consequences for inexcusable conduct. We're your family. Family members don't command each other to vanish after 40 years of devotion and sacrifice. You redefined our bond that Sunday evening." Isabella slumped back onto the couch, overwhelmed by the scale of betrayal. "How could you do this to your own daughter? How could you stand mute while your husband ordered me to forsake my own home?" Nathan hurled the papers across the room, scattering my careful records. "You're a fiend. I'm a professional who applied orderly thinking to a personal issue. You threatened someone you deemed powerless. You learned otherwise." The room grew silent, except for Isabella's quiet sobs. They were absorbing the enormity of being thoroughly outplayed by someone they'd undervalued. "Now," I said, returning to my chair with the serene authority of total triumph, "shall we discuss the conditions under which I might consider assisting you?" Nathan collected the strewn papers with shaking hands, his face flushed with anger and shame. Isabella remained slumped on the couch, digesting the scope of her father's strategic triumph. "These are my conditions," I said, resuming my seat with the calm command of complete victory. "You wish to talk about aid. Let's address it correctly. Conditions." Isabella's voice was scarcely a murmur. "You commanded me to pack my suitcases and disappear. Now you require my help to endure. That demands recognizing some basic truths about our relationship moving ahead." Nathan looked up from the documents, loathing burning in his eyes, but softened by urgent need. "What do you desire first? A written regret? Public admission that your handling of me was improper and brutal? You'll send it to the community newsletter and post it on social platforms. You want us to shame ourselves openly. I want you to amend the record about my character and value. Your neighbors saw you disrespect a grieving widower. They should know you acknowledged that behavior was unacceptable." Isabella nodded gradually. "Okay, we'll compose a regret. Second, you'll treat me with the respect and politeness fitting for the family head. No more belittling remarks, no more financial assumptions, no more commands about my living setup." "Yes, Sebastian," Nathan said through clenched teeth. "Third, any aid I give comes with stipulations. You'll adhere to my financial advice, attend therapy for your marriage issues, and keep jobs that I endorse. You want to direct our lives. I want to guarantee my investment isn't squandered on people who haven't learned from their faults." I stood and approached my desk, extracting my checkbook. The sound of the pen scratching across paper was the only noise in the room. "I'm ready to supply 30,000, enough to avert foreclosure and provide breathing space to reconstruct your lives appropriately." Isabella's eyes widened. 30,000, but we need 50 to fully catch up. You need to learn the distinction between bailout and support. I'm not restoring your former way of life. I'm preventing utter failure while you build something more lasting. I tore off the check and placed it on the coffee table. This includes monthly progress updates, financial openness, marriage therapy attendance, job confirmation, respectful exchange. Nathan stared at the check like it was both deliverance and toxin. And if we reject these conditions, then you depart my house and resolve your problems without my participation. The silence extended for almost 2 minutes. They were assessing their choices, balancing pride against survival, honor against necessity. We accept, Isabella said at last. All of it. Nathan's jaw moved like he was grinding stone, but he nodded. Yes, we accept your conditions. Excellent. I picked up the check and held it just out of reach. You'll receive this tomorrow after you've written and submitted the public regret. View tonight as your chance to ponder how radically your circumstances have shifted. I escorted them to the front door, their beaten postures a sharp contrast to the haughty pair who'd tried to banish me 3 weeks ago. One last reflection, I said as they stepped onto the porch. You presumed I was weak because I was mourning, generous because I was affectionate, helpless because I was older. You mixed kindness with foolishness and patience with impotence. Nathan turned back, his face contorted with powerless fury. This isn't concluded. Sebastian, you're absolutely correct. It's not concluded. It's just commencing under new oversight. I closed the door and returned to the living room, gathering the scattered papers from my tactical timeline. Outside, their car engine started and drove away, carrying 2 people who'd learned that cruelty has outcomes. In my study, I opened Eleanor's photo and smiled at her kind face. I think you'd be proud. I told her. They wanted me gone, but I'm still here. And now they know exactly who they're dealing with. The house settled into comfortable quiet around me. Justice, I found, was a dish best served methodically. If you enjoyed this story of family betrayal and calculated justice, we'd love to hear from you. Share your impressions in the comments below. What struck you most about Sebastian's plan? Feel free to ask questions, and let's exchange ideas further. Your thoughts could spark great discussions. Interact with the channel by liking and subscribing to stay connected. To listen to the next story, click on the box to the left. Thank you for watching.